Good morning and welcome to Monday Mornings with Milestones, the show where we have conversations about culture, stories, trends, and life in the workplace.
My name is Brooke Albert, and I am the resident new mommy and office nerd.
And I am Felix Dusablon. I am a avid reader, fitness enthusiast, and an aspiring polymath. Today is a couple interesting things with National Day. It's not just Monday, but it's also National Chocolate Eclair Day, HVAC Tech Day, Onion Ring Day. I'm gonna have to go get some onion rings. The day that Fast and Furious, the first one, came out in 2001. I know, right? And then also the day FDR signs the GI Bill.
Thanks so much for being with us today. We are going to talk about professionalism and what some people might consider is too personal in the workplace. So to start, I think we should define what professionalism is, right? And according to Merriam-Webster, it is the contract, action, aims, or qualities expected of a professional person or that makes a profession.
That's a pretty hefty definition there. That was
I think it's
long.
a little thick, and I don't
Yeah.
know that most people would agree with that. Personally.
Yeah. How do we define it? I think it would be just mannerisms, manner, and habits befitting working. Would you say that right? Working in the relationships you have there. So
Well, it's conduct, aims, and qualities, right?
right.
That is the mark of a profession.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I could kind of see that. It's like what you would expect from someone who has a certain kind of role, and then or of a professional person. And I think that's where it kind of goes off the rails a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, like to me, a professional person isn't necessarily aims or qualities, but it is definitely conduct.
Yeah, I think especially as the term is being used and thrown around when being professionalist or like if you're being professional, it's in reference to conduct, without a doubt. It like always has to do with conduct, and how you conduct yourself. So yeah, I don't know the attitude so much as like how you're actually feeling about the situation, but more of how you're actually carrying yourself in the situation is the professionalism.
Right, and
Per
I think it kind of it's sort of like a little similar to the way people describe bravery. It's not the absence of fear; it's the way you behave when fear is present.
Right.
So then professionalism is not what you may be experiencing on the inside, but how you portray yourself in a certain situation.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I think one of the important things we need to think about is why we even have something like, I guess, the colloquial professionalism that we're referring to in the workplace in the first place.
Yeah. I think it might have to do with they wanted to, I don't know if there's a they actually to even start this off. It's just sort of picked up over time, but you wanted to make it clear that you're serious about something, maybe? That's what it is. I can imagine that old merchants in the Middle Ages started picking up this idea of professionalism because they wanted it to be clear that they were very serious about what they were doing.
Or like, maybe it was, I don't know, I didn't look into the super history of it, but maybe it was like when guilds were a thing, right? And they would just say that if you're a member of this guild, this is kind of what we expect you to do and represent yourself because, I mean, all throughout history, when it comes to business, how you represent yourself and interact with people reflects on your business. And so there's kind of this give and take between you as a person and you and your business, your employer or the guild master, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of make an agreement like you're not going to go be a jerk and have it reflect poorly on us.
Right, yeah, it's I wonder if it's almost more like an honor type thing. It's like the family honor, but as you became part of a guild, it became your guild's honor, and so that's then reflects your conduct. Then it's like, okay, the guild obviously isn't a very good guild if this guy acts like this.
You have brought shame.
Yeah, and so now that sort of idea has just kept flowing as more and more institutions built up and guilds became less guilds, companies sort of evolved, industries, and it just sort of shuffled its way through, and now we have this professionalism, and that's to reflect well on your company. Is that Is it so? It's all a PR thing?
I think it may be, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that makes some sense because if you interact with somebody and someone comes away, a customer goes like, they were so unprofessional. Automatically, the idea is that the company didn't train them well. So they're like, the company has bad standards, right?
Yeah.
And so it's now the company that's being represented by that professionalism.
Well, and I think, and a lot of you guys out there probably have experience with this, it starts with the way you look, right? And companies will have dress codes.
Yeah, very much, definitely. Dress codes, like how you have your hair, how you have to dress, like what you can, I don't know, put on your car, like how you decorate and stuff. Like, I feel like a lot of companies would be angry if you came in and like drove out and your car's covered in stuff. They're like, come on, that's not professional. And that makes me wonder, like how far is their professional reach extend? But that might be something we'll have to table in a second. But yeah, let's talk about the clothing for a minute here.
Well, so for an example, we decided to establish what maybe looks a little bit more professional by most people's standards, and what is not. I know a lot of people are working from home right now, and if you are rocking a similar look with your sweatpants on, hey, more power to you. I'm so happy for you. I am definitely super jealous. But for me to walk around the office like this, I would get some looks.
Yeah, that's definitely something that you couldn't do. And it's wondering why, actually, because if we're talking about it being the representation of a company outside to a customer, why are these standards being held on the inside?
Well, we in particular here at Milestones share the office with 3 other companies. So that's part one, right? And I think sometimes you'll have people come toward the office, right? So for someone who's walking in who might be a new hire, they might be a possible investor, whatever reason, if they're not there in a part of the culture to see what you guys are going on, to see somebody walking around in sweatpants, probably not the best look. And I think it's because as a society, particularly here in the States, I can't speak too much internationally, we kind of have this idea in our head of what people in the office should dress like.
Yeah. Oh, well, it makes you wonder, why do we have that idea? Now I'm thinking about this conversation, and there, why do we do this? Like, I don't mind. I'm one of the very few people who thinks dress slacks are actually kind of comfy. I'm not like super comfortable. I definitely prefer jeans, but there's not super uncomfortable. But at the same time, I'm wondering why I can't just wear jeans and t-shirt to work every day. Like, why do we force ourselves to do this? If I'm not on a web conference, I'm not giving presentations constantly and such. So why?
Well, even in Zoom meetings right now, people are buying the nice dress tops. You look really professional from the waist up, but you've got board shorts and slippers on.
Yeah.
Out of camera view.
And they know you're at home, so why are they still holding you to that standard? Why is it like, you are not being professional?
But I think it's so interesting. I think this is part of the visual, verbal, body language cues, right? Mm-hmm. So part of the cues we take from other people are super reliant on our vision and percepting things, and we have a way of evaluating people first glance. And if I see you dressed in a suit, your behavior to me, I'm assuming that you're at work, right? And so even the way you carry yourself, like if I dress up in a really nice dress and I get my hair done and I've got the full face on, I've got earrings, which I never wear, the way I carry myself and behave is completely different than t-shirt and sweatpants. And so I think that might also be something that happens at work, is just it kind of reinforces unconsciously the sort of behavior we expect from you in a professional environment by dressing in that manner.
Yeah, it definitely affects your bearing. So I know dressing up with wearing a suit, not just because the suit's constricting, but it automatically has some poise to it. There's definitely elegance in dressing well. And so maybe it is a subconscious thing that if you dress elegantly, if you dress for the job you want, you will then act and behave like someone who has that position. That it? I don't know. I don't think someone's thought that much through it.
Dress for the job you want, I think, is a pretty common saying. Most people know, right?
Right.
And I've seen people make fun of that too.
Yeah,
dressing as superheroes and all kinds of things.
Yeah, the job I want, definitely, I would come and dress very differently, Batman mask and everything.
Yeah. Just come dressed as a bard or something. But so I think that is part of the conduct we expect from professionalism is the way that you dress and carry yourself. Another thing I think we expect from professionalism is the topics that we discuss at work.
Right.
And where do we draw that line? And some of you might have some suggestions about, some definitely taboo, does not belong at work topics. But we spend 40 hours plus a week on average at work.
Yeah.
So it's really hard not to start to get comfortable and discuss things that maybe shouldn't be talked about in the workplace.
Right. So questions are one, we all know what the taboos are, right? There's just a lot of things you just don't say at work, right? Unless you're really not socially aware very much. It's like the same things. It's like there's the things you can talk about at home, the things you can talk about in a society, and then each one of these is getting progressively smaller. Things you can talk about at work. It feels like, so with some people, it's like, especially with your boss, that gets even smaller. And it's like, these are the things you can talk about with your boss without it feeling really unprofessional.
Well, and it's super tricky. I am one of those people who does not. It has been a learning curve as an adult to figure out what those safe at home, safe out in public or in proper society, whatever, polite society, and then safe at work, and then safe with your boss, right? In the environment that I grew up with, my parents were super great and made it really easy to talk about anything. So trying to move out of the home and be around people, it started in like middle school, high school, right? You start to realize that other people aren't comfortable talking about certain things with you. And then, you start your professional life and you realize that list got a whole lot shorter and there's a lot of stumbling blocks. Yeah. And it's really interesting because it's not the same for everyone, right? Like, some people might be perfectly comfortable discussing experiences that they've had, right? Or what they did on their weekend. It might have been like a super touchy subject. It might make one person uncomfortable, another person might not mind. It's kind of a minefield.
It is, yeah. I'm also thinking about there's so much of your personal life you're not supposed to ever bring to work, right? It feels like you're supposed to not, that's your personal life, don't bring that up here. We don't care how it went. It's like, did you have a nice weekend? Your answers are yes, or it was all right, or I didn't do much. You can't say things like, oh, well, I had a rough time. I was actually going through this and stuff, and people were like, they'd be feeling for you, but at the same time they'd be like, why is he bringing this up at work? That's not right. Like, this is not the topic. This is not the place.
A really good example of that, and this is my favorite. I didn't realize I did this wrong, apparently. One lady, I was picking up my niece from daycare, and one of the moms was there, and I had bumped into her a lot. And so one day she said, hey, how are you doing today? And I said, I'm okay. I'm a little tired, right? But I'm doing good, I think, right? So she's like, wow, okay, most people just stop at, I'm fine, thanks, how are you? But sure, glad you're okay. Right. And it was like, well, to me, if you're going to ask the question, how are you, to try to start a conversation, that means you're trying to start a conversation and you're genuinely interested. Did not think that there's a polite conversation where you don't actually give a behind.
Yeah. That's actually that's a funny point, and that's something that's kind of cultural in the United States. Is you're expected to ask how you're doing, but you're not expected to answer that question really. Not
honestly.
Honestly, yeah, you're not supposed to answer that honestly. You're supposed to be, oh yeah, I'm fine, or I'm good, or great. That you have to give a positive answer, and at the very least, just a neutral one. I think that's really funny because my brother he lived in Russia for a couple of years. He was teaching English there. And while he was there, he said the funniest thing is when you ask someone how they're doing, which you don't necessarily do as much because it's just not as expected as formality there. But then when you would ask someone, they'd be like, oh, it sucks. Yes, and then go through some of their recent issues or struggles, and that was the norm societally, is just to say these things suck.
Right.
It's accepted. But that's not the case in the United States, especially in the workplace where it's you're not supposed to say what's wrong.
No,
you only say, oh, I'm pretty good. Thanks for asking. And it's just become a formality. and I feel like that's a lot of like this professionalism is just sort of a formality. We're not really expected to get to any like real depth with that.
Well, and so, and I think it's such an interesting thing because, of course, everybody has the friends, right, at work. People call them a work wife, a work husband, or whatever. But there are people that you get close to during your employment that you do talk about that kind of stuff with, right? You are in the office 40 hours a week. That's 90% of your waking hours, right? Or at least for me, I go to bed at 8:30. But I have a baby, so, sleep when baby sleeps. And and then I have the weekend with my husband, which is what, like 48 hours, right? If you include Friday night, I've got like 52 waking hours. Not even 52 waking hours with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
I see people at work more than I see him. So we do talk about those with our friends, but for the most part, you pass somebody in the hallway, they're not trying to be in your business.
Yeah, and there's another thing is you can't get very deep with the conversation, right? You're expected. Yeah, it's supposed to be small talk is really good. In fact, most people encourage it, like, oh yeah, have small talk. It's good to have that relationship at work, like have people but you're not really supposed to go much further than small talk most of the time. And I'm wondering partially if it's because they're worried that if you have these engrossing discussions, you'll sort of forget about work for a while. I'm like, oh, I really want to know about this subject. Like, this is something I have to really talk through and have this discourse on the meaning of life or whatever. And then boss is not going to be really, okay, come on, you should be back at work right now. So maybe is that why? Is that why we can't have more than small talk? Or is it like that formality thing with the, how are you doing? I'm fine. Excellent. I'm glad to hear you're well.
Let's move on to the point.
Yeah, and then move on. We have to do it. It's something we're expected to do, but we're not really wanting to know.
Well, and I think that goes back to like the company culture, right? And what we've all established is supposed to be professionalism. There was a time, and it still exists in some places, where home was home and work is work. I don't know if any of you have experience working in retail or food service, where you're front to front, you're face to face with your customers. Okay. I was told repeatedly, you leave home at the door. When you get to work, you are at work. It doesn't matter what you're going through. Smile on your face. It's supposed to be super polite with all your customers. And of course, that's part of it. But I think it's wrong to say, leave home at home. And because, I forget who said it, but is it Mike Robbins maybe? Someone wrote a book about it, like bringing your whole who you are to work. Because a lot of people just kind of cut part of themselves out because it's not considered professional.
Right, yeah. It feels like you're having a little bit of a dual identity. There's my work me and there's my home me. And when I get in that car, I have to make that transition, and I can't.
On your commute.
And the commute, that's where that transition happens. So the two never see each other, right? I felt like this when I was growing up, when I just had those. I grew up on a farm, so I was like farm boy at home. And then when I would go into society, anywhere I would go, I would dress up and such. And so people, if they saw me in either place, would be like, "What? That's the same person? There's no way."
Yeah.
But that's the thing we expect, right? We expect there to be a different type of person at work than they are at home. We don't really want to see their home selves at work, right?
I think that's kind of the expectation. I know there's, thankfully, there's a little bit of a shift in that, right? It's not so much that, leave home at home. People are allowed to bring in pictures of their family or decorate their offices with pretty much whatever they want, right? As long as it's not like super offensive. But having a picture of your partner or your kids or your parents, sure. I don't know. People put parents in their office.
Some people do. Some people, whole families.
Whole family picture. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, like some places that used to not be okay.
Yeah.
Now there is, I think, a risk of bringing your entire self to work, where your personality is like on 15, and you really need to be at like a 7. You need to don't. I think one of the best analogies I can think of is like, instead of having the volume at 100% and waking up the neighbors, maybe turn it down to 6. So that they know you're having a party, but it's not obtrusive enough that they call the cops.
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy. I think that's maybe one reason why we have to, when coming to work, you're not supposed to have your personality dialed all the way up, but you dial back a little partially. It's like distracting a little bit and or disruptive. So if your personality is just a very explosive personality, it's great to have like positive energy at the workplace, but when someone's like bubbling over and coming out of their office or you're like, whoa, oh, they're here, they've just arrived, which everyone has some coworker that's that way a little
Yeah,
bit. But
the one we have here, she is an absolute doll, and I love her. But
Yeah.
you definitely know when she walks through the office.
Right, and it's great because it's such positive energy. But if someone had like negative energy when they came in, it'd be like, woo, that's some personality.
Well, it's just one of those things where you're like, okay, 10 minutes. I need to take a little break, right? Because it's just so much, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic to have like people be genuine. That's
Genuine,
honestly
yeah.
like being genuine is very, very, very important. But maybe you have to keep the volume down a little bit, right? So you're not so disruptive. I think that's one of the things. Cause it would be hard if everybody in the office is at full, just normal, happy themselves or not happy themselves, especially not happy themselves, being really, really hard to focus and get anything done with everyone being that way or people engaging these longer discussions or conversations and like that. It would just become social hour forever.
Or I think it's also a really good thing, like, because you mentioned your home person and your work
Mhm.
person. Me, when I get home, I am dressed, like, immediately when I get home, I change into this, right? So, sweatpants, t-shirt, hair goes into an absolute mess. Like, anything that would be considered decent for the outside world no longer implies in my house. Like, I will sprawl out on my couch to relax with my kiddo and my doggies and just, like, no one should ever see that. But if I tried to do stuff like that at work, I think it goes back into that subconscious mentality where I'm going to be maybe a little bit more lazy or a little less focused on what I'm doing. Whereas if I try to find that fine line between, a 10 and a 1 of blasting my personality, okay, maybe when I'm at a 5, I can still be comfortable and relaxed if people could see that I am super chill, but I'm still going to focus on my work and get my job done.
Right. I think that's one of the biggest things is that attitude that it brings with it. Like if you know how you're supposed to act professionally, I think it does make it so that you act right at work. And don't just I don't know, get angry at a customer or like fly off the handle or something like that, which is obviously something you don't want. But at the same time, you're also being more careful to keep yourself in check and like keep yourself productive and motivated. And if we were, just letting our home selves be, some people are more motivated than others, but I think a lot of people would just lose motivation. There wouldn't be anything there's no switch in your brain, right? Habits and routines are so important to getting things done that if we didn't maybe have that professionalism, that standard, there wouldn't be a switch, right? When you come to work, you're like, I am now in the office, I am professional, I'm courteous now to everybody. I am dressing right. I am getting work done. That is an attitude that sort of happens, and those are sort of habits that you form based off the way you dress and the way you conduct yourself. Back to that old definition. Right. Whereas if you're not, you have some of the issues.
Which I think is interesting, right? Because there are companies who have change the way the workplace environment looks like so that it's not our traditional view of professional, like Google and Pixar.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, that's some really cool thing is how are some companies handling this? Because we have two big things that are happening right now. By right now, I mean some of these older, some of this very recently, and that is less professional standards at work at places like Google and Pixar, where they have, they encourage you to dress comfortably. They have like a cereal bar. At Pixar, there's a cereal bar. Like they go get cereal and eat cereal like at your desk while you work.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I know, it's pretty great though. But like they have these like amenities that are there for you to, I think that's the wrong word, But anyways, nice things there for you to engage with and use that are sort of the comfy, fun things. I don't know what the company was. I don't know if it's Google. Another one, there's like a rock climbing wall there for people who just
that
like,
might be Google.
yeah, to get some exercise. They'll stop, take a break, climb a wall, and come back. And like, if someone were climbing a wall at work here, I think everyone would be like, "What's going on?"
There's a company here in the like Charlotte, Fort Mill area that has a tap room in their lobby.
Oh, that's actually pretty fantastic, though. But at the same time, where do you draw the line with that?
So is that just like as employees get off work, they can stop by and have a drink with their coworkers, or do you get to go down at lunchtime and have a beer, right? And that's a super like, maybe at like a super professional company lunch, if you're talking with executives, you guys might have a glass of wine with lunch. That might be okay. But for us on the low end of the totem pole, if I went to have a margarita at lunchtime and came back to work, I think there would be some questions.
Yeah, that's actually a funny thing that I don't know that it really feels into this topic so well. Is like executives that have their like brandy collection and stuff. Like before another executive comes in and it's like, that's professional. But if someone else came in and they had the little brandy while they're working, and be like, whoa, that's not professional.
No,
that's a funny thing.
Is that actually? Does that act? You guys might be able to answer this. Does that actually happen?
Yeah. Are there actually like
executives with the crystal, decanter with the nice scotch in it, or is that just something that was propagated by like Mad Men?
Yeah, I'm actually really curious, wanting to know about that. It's like I've never seen like nice liquor on the wall when you come into an office. Like I've seen sometimes they'll be like little teeny ones, and they're like that's just
the airplane bottle.
Yeah, the little airplane bottle. It's like, huh? But I don't think. Yeah, I've never seen that. But that's also a funny thing is as you progress up the ladder, you're held to this like really tighter and tighter and tighter professionalism standards, right? But at the same time, you get like to let loose on some of the other random stuff. I don't know, like you get the decanter, it's like, aha, I made it to the top where now every day I have to wear the suit. Low level people, it's just a button up. Then a little bit higher, you have to wear the tie. Then you have to wear
the coat.
Then you have to wear a coat. Somewhere in there, your hair has to change, right? You have to be clean shaven, and like buzz cut. Like mine would never go past me at bottom level. But as I progress up, yeah, that's really funny. I think that goes back to dress for the job that you want, right? So you can look like an executive if you can dress like an executive. I have no interest in ever becoming an executive. That's a lot of stress, and I again have kids and dogs, so. I am more focused on surviving the week with my mentality, and you parents out there who've been doing it because you've got older kids. How? If you have any tips, I'd appreciate it. It's really, I think that is really interesting though that you bring that up, that, you see like your team, levels. Then your team leaders and management, and then your directors, and then as you get up to the C-suite, like the way people dress looks completely. Now that might be different at Google. Yeah, maybe it is, and that's something funny though. Like those companies that are trying to sway that attitude, and then with all the working from home is the other side of that.
Oh yeah,
everyone's now sort of swaying away from it. But even working from home, I feel like if you tuned into a Zoom chat with like the CEO, they're gonna still be in a suit and like.
Yeah.
Like they won't. There's I think even they're still held to the higher level professionality, like professional level. Maybe Google CEO they get to wear a T-shirt, but they have to have a suit jacket on top of their T-shirt. I don't know.
Or they just wear like a regular polo with a suit jacket.
Right. So like they still have a mark of distinction that they're on the higher professional level. Right. That's
really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder. Yeah. I think they were saying how much. You respect the company when you see it, and I guess they think they're more figureheads, so they're seen more. Actually, I was just thinking about this. If you have like a doctor you want to see, if the doctor's not dressed like professionally, you're going to be wondering about that doctor's like quality, and maybe that's like higher rung you go, the more, and that has that back to that old reflecting on your company. Like that guild mentality.
Yeah, but I think that's almost because here in the States we've been pre-programmed by media and just experience that this should look a certain way, which I kind of wish we would move away from, because it's kind of like judging a book by its cover, right?
Well, it's something we presuppose it. Like there's
that's a good word for it. Yeah.
we automatically are indoctrinated into this culture, and that's actually going to be my next question: is are we losing anything by enforcing this idea of professionalism at the workplace? Like, we've definitely seen we could lose some things if we don't. Right? There's that
productivity
and motivation and such, and maybe just people not respecting or thinking highly of your company. But what do we lose by doing this?
What do employees lose by being forced to be a certain level of professional?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. I don't know that creativity. I mean, some people are so creative. You could put them in a soundproof room.
But at the same time,
going crazy.
Like have to have their creative environments, right? Like, most people are most creative in, I think, in nature. Like they'll wander into a park and they're like, oh, poof.
Or just sitting outside,
right.
Yeah. Or the stereotype that everybody makes fun of the artist who's got like complete and total chaos.
Right. The artist can't wear shoes, otherwise they can't create.
right. Or I think a good joke about it, if anyone watches My Little Pony, Rarity in the Friendship is Magic, her sewing room, and she makes clothes, right? But her sewing room is a mess constantly, and she actually gets upset when her sister cleans it up. So because she loses creativity.
Or it's like Sherlock when he has to think, when it's like he's got to like pull into himself and just be like a crazy person for a little while.
Yeah.
And that's the stereotype of the mad genius, is they've got to have their environment that they're in. They're like, and then
he has to go to his mind palace.
Yeah. And so do we lose some creativity when putting the people in this stuff? Like, yes, we come in and we're like, here's our habit. We're now in work mode. I'm ready for this. But do we lose that spontaneity and that creativity? I think one thing we might lose is sort of a sense of genuine, like, concern. Like we were talking about earlier, how are you doing? Fine. And you move on. But with someone in your family or a friend, you can actually ask that question and they'll give you a more honest response. And then you can touch base with the person, you can empathize with them, and you can have a more legitimate relationship, either because you already built that relationship, but even someone you don't have as much relationship, if you run into someone in a party, you can instantly like hit it off and have that relationship start building and happening. Whereas when you have that work mentality, you're already holding yourself back a little bit from having that conversation, because you're going to hold back and they're going to hold back, and so
there's a wall.
There's a wall both of you built, and it's mutually accepted that wall exists and it should be there. We have that as a standard.
Maybe one day we'll put a door in it.
Right.
It could go back and forth.
Well, that's what that small talk is. That little window. Hello. How are you doing? Fine.
Good to see you. Yeah.
Now slide the papers through the slot.
Yeah. It's the bank teller with it, right?
So are we losing something?
I think we're also risking inducing anxiety, right? Because there are some people like me. It can make me really nervous trying to walk into a professional environment. Just because, like I said, I had that problem of trying to learn what was off limits, and I still screw it up. I am genuinely trying. How are you doing today? I want to know. If there's something I can help you with.
I want to ask that question and
to me
get a response.
Yeah, you want a genuine response, because to me, talking to somebody on the phone that I don't really know, and then being like, "How are you doing today?" Oh, you know what, I'm doing well. I'm a little. It's a little rainy outside. I got a little stuff going on, but I'm doing okay. And so I'll be like, oh, well, I could kind of tell in your voice that you sound a little sick, or you know what I mean? It's just, there's a human connection that happens.
Right, and I think that's something that we might lose, like that real relationship that gets built, and we're sort of, when we cut off that ability to have that nicer that conversation because it's not professional anymore, we cut off also the ability to have those real relationships. Like for a lot of people, I feel like there's a difference between work friends and your
real friends.
Yeah. Like, these are my friends. Yeah. These are my work friends. Oh, that's Bob from work. Right? And then you see him at the store and you're like, hi, Bob. And he's like, hey, Felix.
How you doing?
All right, and you go by. You're done. You're like, oh, wow. Guess who I saw at the store today? But it's not the same as like, did you see Aunt Agatha? We just ran into her at the park.
Yeah. Well, and that might be a little different too, because in the South, the deep South, right, where I'm from, that's not so much a thing. You run into anybody at the grocery store, you're guaranteed a 5-minute conversation.
It's true. I feel though.
I grew up in a super small town though, so maybe that's why.
That's a good point. I think culturally in the South that's more common though. We have that it is normal to have some of a conversation anywhere you're at.
It's still not like truly genuine,
Mm-hmm.
but you will have people, how's your mom and them?
Yeah.
You know, how they doing? I heard that's da 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 da. And you're like, oh, well, da, da, da. It's like.
Well, speaking about the faux pas, though, even with someone from work, if you're outside of work, it's hard to ask them about questions like, oh, how's your mom doing? It's just something you don't bring up anyways.
Right, well, because
so you have less common ground area to have. Maybe that's why you have those work friends and then your friends, because you're not allowed to have most of those conversations, right? You can't talk to them about what's really going on in your life or how your weekend was, good or bad, because it's just not something you're supposed to talk about. And then now you lose that. Again, it goes back to that, losing that part of that relationship.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So what do you guys think regarding professionalism and being too personal in the workplace? I should say that with the recent Supreme Court ruling, I'm really excited to see what some of the culture shifts is, because I think a lot of people are going to come out and be a lot more of themselves, like we talked about, because that fear is gone, right? Hopefully that fear is gone. And so I'm really excited to see some of these people be more like themselves, bring in some family pictures. I think there's just a general happiness level that's going to kind of tick up from that. I think so too. So, just comment on the video what you guys would think maybe too personal for the workplace.
Yeah, and also if you have any suggestions for further conversations we could have, there's like something you're like, you know what? I really want someone like to talk through this idea. Like, put it in the comments as well. Let us know what we can talk about. Let us know if this was interesting, if this was informative, if you came out with anything you're like, oh, that's a good point.
You could, if you want to say that we absolutely bombed it and it was a waste of your time, I would appreciate that feedback as well, because
that is good
completely new for us. But thanks so much for sitting through this talk with us. We really appreciate it.
Greatly. Yeah.
And I hope you have a really great Monday.
Have a good Monday. Have a good week. We'll see you next time.